All right. We get our guest in here for a few minutes. I hope you guys are seeing me okay. About every 3 seconds, I get something saying poor connection. So we'll give it a couple of seconds. We'll bring our guest in. But before I bring him in, let me introduce him. First of all, this is Chevalier. This is Conversations with Chevalier. Our guest today is an amazing young brother, man. You guys know him as Brother Cigar. I know him as Eric Josefson. He's a part of the Burndown podcast. So let me tell y'all something. I am excited about having this brother on here, man. These guys are doing amazing things over there. He's got 22,000 followers. He's funny. He's witty. He does some great things in the culture. So we're going to talk about his journey. So no further ado, I'm going to bring him in. What's going on, my man?
Mr. Chevalier, what's going on?
Man, happy to finally have you as a guest on Conversations with Chevalier,
I
man.
appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate you getting my last name correct. No one ever gets it right the first time around.
Man, look, I'm from the north. I'm not from the south. Names like that are common where I'm from in Indiana. So,
It's
but
unbelievable.
hey, you're welcome.
No
How
one
you
ever.
doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I wish I was smoking a cigar right now like you are, but
Yeah,
had a new baby,
yeah.
got to adapt to the life a little bit. So, you got to pick and choose when I can have a cigar.
Hey, I know how it is, man. I remember those days. They long behind me now. My babies, hopefully, will be having some babies and make me a granddad one day real soon.
I hope so, man. I hope so. See,
Yeah, so hey man, when we start the show, I always ask you a couple questions. I didn't tell you what they were going to be, but the mantra of the Chevalier lifestyle, we smoke the cigar, sip the whiskey, sing to the music, and
yeah.
savor the cuisine, right? And so since you're not smoking, I'm going to tell you I'm smoking drunk chicken tonight
Hey,
because,
okay.
you know, that's one of your alumni from the Humo Latino magazine cover.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
and so we gonna touch on that, but I decided let me do that. Let me do that because I didn't have any of your cigars and I couldn't get them in time. I was
I
thinking, let me
know. I
order
thought
some.
about it. I was like, you know what? I should have sent him cigars before the meeting here, and I it wasn't enough time. I thought about it on Thursday. I was like, I don't think I can even get it quick down that fast. So I apologize.
Man,
I should have sent you cigars. I should have,
man, I
because
should have.
I
I
I
should
got
have
them right
bought
here.
some. Hey,
They should be in your hand right now.
we gonna get some out this way, man. So before we get started, what's your favorite cigar to smoke?
Oh man, it's you know, is it biased if I say my own cigars? That's too easy,
Nope,
right?
nope, no,
Well,
no. It's whatever.
no. I
It's
mean,
whatever.
what I used to say.
Whatever sets the vibe for
Well,
you, bro.
before we had the blueprint and before we had the diligent, I was always a big fan of the Drew Estate Liga Privada number 9, the Oliva
Mm.
Serie V Milanio. Oh boy, what else? Oh, the Caldwell Byman's Bluff. It's like I don't have a favorite cigar. It's like picking your favorite kid, picking your favorite nephew. You love them all for the most part, right? And
Yeah, it's true.
there's so many different cigars. It's really hard, at least for me. It's really hard just to file down to one because it also depends on your mood. If I love the Liga Privada so much, it might not be the best when I wake up in the morning with a cup of coffee. So it's like you can't have it all the time, at least
That's
in my
true.
opinion. You might have
That's
someone
true.
do something a little smoother, a little lighter. So, but yeah, those are usually like the three I always like come to mind: is the Oliva Serie V Milanio, Caldwell's Blind Man's Bluff, um, and the Jewish State League Privada number 9 are always good. And then you always got like the Padrones are always good, right? The Padrones
Yeah, you you you
1964s.
you can't never miss.
No,
You can't never miss with a Padron, bro.
those are always
You can't.
consistent, right? But
Right, right.
it's just all about these now. It's all about these.
Oh,
And
we gonna
this is what I
talk
got.
about them.
This is
Believe
what
me,
I
we gonna
got.
talk about them tonight. I got questions. I said I wasn't even gonna ask you a lot of questions about them when we get to it. I'm just gonna let you talk about it. But next question:
Yeah, let's
what's your
go.
favorite drink, man? What's your favorite drink when you smoking a cigar?
I
I know
love
it's relative to the time of the day and everything, but what's your
Yeah,
favorite drink?
I mean, like this one, I can choose a favorite. I mean, my favorite is coffee. I do love drinking coffee with a cigar, no matter if it's a light cigar, medium, or full cigar. It's always my choice is coffee. I usually drink my coffee black.
Hmm.
Sometimes if I'm feeling a little crazy, I'll put a little cream in there. But But then I love whiskey. I love Angel's Envy. Yeah,
Ah,
Angel's Envy is my favorite. I mean, Eagle Rare is another great bourbon I love. But it's also that's why I love cigars. It's all based on your mood and what you're into. There's no like set standard of how it should be every single time. So
that's true.
it's but definitely coffee, and then to follow it up, it's definitely some bourbon, definitely by Angel's Envy.
All right, all
How about
all
yourself?
right. So the
What do
next
you
one,
what do you like
man,
to drink?
I tell you what. So I love to drink a good bourbon. A lot of times I'm gonna have, you know, a Four Roses.
Oh,
You
that's a
know,
great bourbon too.
I,
Yeah, I should have
I, I
mentioned that
love
one.
I love a fervent Four Roses. Uh, the Woodford Double Oak. I love the Old Forester. There's several that I run to all the time. And man, I like a good rye also. So man, I got hooked on the Sazerac rye a couple
Mm,
years ago. I love that, man. I anytime I'm smoking a nice peppery cigar,
sure.
a rye hits it just right. That's the
Oh,
perfect compliment. A nice peppery cigar deserves a good rye to go with it, at least for my
most
palate.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
most definitely. There's another
yeah.
good whiskey that just it came out. What is it called? I don't know if you follow Sean, the cigar boss man. He always posts it. Oh my God, what's it called? And that's a relatively inexpensive whiskey or bourbon rather, and it's so freaking good. Oh my God, it's getting away from me the name now. Maybe is it Brothers Bond? Is that a whiskey? Is that a bourbon? Brothers Bond, I think it's
I
called.
don't
Maybe
know. I
Brothers
haven't
Bond.
heard of that one. Brothers
Um,
Bond. Note to
yeah,
self on Brothers Bond.
yeah.
Note, note
I
to
I
self.
was gonna Google it, but I'm on my phone right now, so I can't even do that. But I think it's called Brothers Bond bourbon. It's really good. It's sweet, and at least in New York, I think you're in Texas, right? So it's always
Right, right.
relatively a lot more expensive in New York. It goes for like $30 here, so I can only imagine how much it is if it's sold in Texas. But it's good. Yeah, keep an eye
I
out for it. Brothers Bond
got
bourbon.
to look out for that. When I get big enough to have a producer, I can look off to the right, and be like,
Yeah,
let
yeah,
him,
no doubt, no doubt.
Brothers Bond. Hey, so I think I know the answer to this next question, but I'm gonna ask you anyway.
Yeah, what's up?
What's your favorite music to listen to, man, when you smoking and setting the vibe,
Oh
man?
God,
I think
again,
I know already, but I'm
it's
just gonna let you in.
again, it depends on my mood, but I wanted to talk to you about this because we have a lot of the similar taste in music.
Yeah.
But growing up, I grew up. I'm 33 years old, so I grew up in all the 90s and 2000s hip hop. So like my whole life, that's all I listened to. That was all I listened to. I take. I don't really claim my fame to be anything, but I do claim myself to be a little bit of a hip hop head, so I will give myself that. But then once I moved away, I lived in Atlanta for a little bit, and
Hmm.
that was my first time really like because my parents always drowned me with the '60s, the '70s, the '80s. Being a young
Hmm.
kid, you're like, Mom, Dad, shut this off. Like what? I don't want to listen to this. And until I moved away, I'll never forget. I was in my apartment in Atlanta, and what is it? By the Four Tops. I Baby I Need Your Lovin' came on, and I was like, wow, this song is really good. Like this is like
That's what got you.
bringing a lot of back like family, family
Yeah.
outings, and I was almost brought like a tear in my eye. And I was like, this is actually good music. So now I listen to a lot more like 60s, 70s, 80s more than hip hop and rap,
Hmm.
but it's almost like 50-50. But if I had to choose, like just on a summer night, I do have playlists on my Spotify. I have like a late night hip hop playlist, and it's just
Uh-huh.
like smooth, calm hip hop. And I don't really think there's anything better than that. 9 times out of 10, that's what I'm going with. I'm kind of going with the fifth.
What's your top three rappers of all time? And I know I got a feeling you gonna say Nas because I know you like Nas. I know you
Yeah,
like Nas for real.
yeah.
Like, but what's your
It's
favorite top three? What's your top three, man?
I mean, it's not like you said. It's Nas. It's J. Cole. And the third kind of gets iffy. I can just go between Nas and J. Cole. Like between those two, I can just listen for hours. I mean, you got Biggie, you got
Yeah,
Jay-Z,
yeah.
you got Wu-Tang, you got them all. But those are usually my top two, just because I think those are the two best storytellers.
Yeah.
Nas was you can just close your eyes and just listen to what he says, and you can just imagine and picture in your head what he's talking about, being on the subway, being, his gun got jammed and he's trying to do something crazy. You can picture these stories in your head, like not like today. Today is you kind of like have to rewind it a few times or like kind of slow it down and be like, what did you just say? What did these guys just say? But and then when J. Cole came out, J. Cole to me, it's oh, I want to say this. I followed J. Cole before he was even really J. Cole. As much as like people say, "Oh, I followed him forever." I'll never forget my friend Camille gave me a warm up mixtape by J. Cole, and he was a
Hmm.
nobody. And he was like, "Hey, listen to this guy. He's a really good storyteller. He's really lyrical." And I'm like, "All right." And I listened to him, and I was like instantly hooked. And I would remember I would go to the first time I see him was in Brooklyn once. It was in a concert. You paid like $20. It was first come, first serve. And he still had mixtapes out. And he didn't have any albums out. And it was a standing crowd. And I think this was when he had his second mixtape out with Friday Night Lights. We had Drake. He had the song with
Hmm.
Drake, what is it, In the Morning.
Hmm.
And this dude in this little ass, what do you call it? Performance center where he
Uh-huh.
was doing it brought out Drake in this little, and this is before Drake was Drake. Drake was popular, but not on this level. And I'll never forget like that whole experience. Like we were in the front row, we got daps from him and everything. So, those two guys really hold a good place in my heart between Nas and J. Cole for sure.
Real talk. Real talk. Now the last question. Food, man. What's your favorite meal to savor, man, right before or after
Oh,
you have a great cigar?
oh
I like
God. That's
Italian. Imagine
oh
that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I like
That's
Italian. What's your favorite?
yeah. I mean, I'll since you like Italian, I mean that was going to be my answer, but I'll take it one step further. I mean, you can't really go wrong. I had a dinner once when I was smoking a cigar and eating a steak dinner, and that experience between the savory of a steak, the mashed potatoes, the asparagus, the mac and cheese, and then you had a nice
Hmm.
medium full body cigar. I don't know. I felt like I was a king. I was like smoking my cigar, I was eating my steak, and I was like, man, this is like a really interesting food pairing. And you hear about it. People say like food pairings, this and that all the time. But until you actually get involved with it and actually experience it, um, I would say steak is a great, great pairing with food. What kind of
Oh
Italian food
yeah.
do you like after a cigar?
Man, let me tell you, anything kind of spicy.
Yeah.
I take some lasagna, especially, but I like it spicy, man. I like them to put like a spicy Italian sausage in it, something like that. Anything, or even a good pizza, man, as long as it's spicy after a cigar. I
Yeah.
smoke a lot. I smoke Maduros, with the robust flavors and everything. And man, when you throw that spicy Italian
Mm,
sausage, in an Italian dish, hey,
I
you can't
love.
go wrong, bro.
Have you had a pepperoni pizza with hot honey on
I, You know, Ironically, I just tried that for the first time about 2 weeks ago because my wife is into all of that, and yeah, that was pretty good.
it? It was
That's
all
pretty
right.
good. Yeah, that's all right. That's
Yeah.
all right. And you could drink just about anything with that. Like today, I'm drinking a beer. I like to drink craft
Yeah.
beers, so I got the Carbach Blonde, man. That there's a little place here where I live in right outside of Dallas that sells a lot of craft beers. So I'll grab a craft beer too, and
I
a good
am a,
Italian
believe it or
meal.
not, I am a beer drinker. I do prefer if I'm drinking alcohol, it is usually beer first
Oh
before I
yeah.
start getting into the dark stuff. I'm as easy as a Miller, I can as easy as a Miller Light. I do like the craft beers, I do like the IPAs, but it's just something about an ice cold beer for at least for me. It's I don't know, it feels like super American. And by the way, thank you for your service. I know you are
Oh,
a veteran, so I
yes,
appreciate your
sir.
service. So thank you. I wanted to say that in the beginning. But I don't know, a beer just seems super American to me. I don't know why that. I guess maybe that's the marketing in it, but and just like on a hot day and you have a cold beer, it's just refreshing. You can't
Yeah,
always have a night
yeah.
on a hot day. You can't always have a bourbon. It's not the same. It's not the same touch.
Man, I remember being in the Marine Corps, man, and you've been running around all day, you doing your thing. We get back. I'm a little older than you, so back in the day, I remember Miller Genuine Draft coming out, right? And us drinking Miller Genuine Drafts, man, and be like, we need something stronger. So of course, having a little hoodish history, give me some bull. Give me one of those tall master cylinders of slit small liquor bull, man. Look, back then I had
Whatever
abs,
gets the
man. I
job
had
done.
abs. I could do it.
Yeah,
Huh? I could
whatever
do
get.
it. You drink that bull, man, and give you some abs, man. Go to the gym after that.
after drinking a can of bull, cut you right up on
Hey,
the ass, bro.
it's a win-win. It's a win-win.
Oh yeah, oh
I
yeah.
love that. How long did you serve in the military? Or were you
8 years, man.
wow, wow, that's amazing.
8 years, man. It was an interesting journey, man. You know, just being a kid from Gary, Indiana. I didn't want to go to college. You know, I was a good
Yeah,
student, but I was done with that, man. And I decided to join, and I learned a lot, man. You know, I learned a lot about dedication and perseverance. You know, a lot of things that we talk about. Even me and Ray, when I do my other show, The Lounge, on Wednesday nights, we talk a lot about that, man, perseverance. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about because,
yeah.
like, I've been following you for a minute and I knew that you were younger. I knew that you were younger. You and your boy, you guys on the Burndown podcast, man, you guys have a way of delivering your messages, man, through your conversations. And you guys are unique because, and I'm a straight shooter. Y'all like two of the coolest white boys I know. I swear, man. I can sit back. I mean, like, I look at the pictures and you guys got that whole young Sylvester Stallone thing going. You
I
know, you kind of
appreciate
like,
that.
the pictures.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate
But
that.
long before you was on the Burn Down podcast, long before you started smoking cigars, man, you were a young guy. Like you said, you listened to music with your parents. At some point, you were in Atlanta. What was life like for you growing up before cigars?
It's a great question. What was life before? So I started smoking cigars really not until I moved away, until I lived in
Hmm.
Connecticut. I would do it occasionally just to feel cool. Like I would start smoking Black and Milds and stuff like that. But I was just an average kid from Long Island, going to college, just trying to figure out life as a young kid,
Hmm.
trying to figure out what life is all about. And cigars have always played a part in my life, you know, without me really knowing it. One of my reasons, obviously, is my father. My father always smoked cigars. I remember being a young kid, and God, my mom was a saint. I don't know how she allowed this, but I remember being a kid, and my dad would have like card games at our house, and they would smoke cigars in the house. And I remember being a little kid, like waking up and just being like clouds of smoke, and being like, "Dad, what's going on here?" And I always just they always played a part in my life, and you always looked cool when you smoked a cigar.
Yeah.
Always in the movies. I was a big fan of all like the mafia stuff growing up and the suits and the business savvy guys smoking cigars. And I was like, you
Hmm.
know what? I want to be like that. Um, but it's a good question. I never actually thought about because they always, I guess, played a part in my life at some point. Obviously, not as much, but I was just a young kid just trying to figure out life, go to college, try to, live the American dream, get a job,
Yeah.
move into a place, start a family, and now I'm finally doing that at 33 years old. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was just you don't, what's the phrase? You don't really know you're in the good times until until you're out of the good times, or there's some kind of saying like
Right.
that.
Right.
Like
Right.
you were in the Marines and you didn't realize the stuff that you were actually doing mattered, and it built your character, who you were, until to where you are now, looking back on it.
Yeah.
And
That's real talk.
you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's I haven't really thought about it, but yeah, just a young kid just trying to figure out life, and just trying to be successful in a very hard world to be successful in.
Yeah.
I
That's
always
true.
I find people who own businesses and who are successful on their own. I look up to those type of people because it's not easy.
Yeah.
Even people who just are working regular jobs, it's not easy just to make it every single day. And I took I didn't realize that until I got older. That you have to work extreme. I always knew you had to work hard to get things, but not until you're fully out on your own. You don't have a
Yeah.
safety blanket, mom,
Right.
dad, whoever, grandma, grandpa. There's no one there to help you anymore. You got to figure it out on your own. And I think that being a part of your question is that was something I was trying to figure out early on. Like, how can I survive on my own? And be sustainable and kind of be like my parents and how I grew up, and have a
Right.
kids and give them the life that I had. So that's it was a very long answer, I think, but
It's a
I
good.
hope it's hit some
No,
points.
no. Hey, man, look. This is my show. We can talk as long as we want to.
Hey,
I'm
listen,
not gonna keep you
I'm
long,
usually
cause
not the one getting interviewed. I'm usually interviewing, so I'm not used to one always talking. And
yeah, man. It's like I told you before, man, it's more of a conversation than an interview because I always say this, you never can appreciate what you see about a person now until you understand the journey that it took to get them there. You know what I'm saying?
Most
And so
definitely.
one of the things with you guys and with you in particular, I remember seeing when you announced that you're about to be a dad. And I was actually going to hit this later, but I want to touch it now before I even get into the real cigar talk. But what was that like for you, man? What? Because I saw the look on your face, man. You was like, ah, and now you got this baby at home, and it changes your life. What was that like for you?
Man, it's a great question. I was just talking about this. We had a previous guest on our podcast, and he's a young father too as well. And my partner Justin is on his way to be a father. So we were just talking
Oh,
about, excuse me, just being a young father, and it was kind of like a surreal moment. I'm sure like every man, every woman that goes through it, but I'm looking at this human being that my wife and I created, and I'm like, man, this went from A to B to C to all the way to Z, and now it's here. And
right.
I had my mother-in-law in the delivery room, and she's taking videos, and you see me kind of just like looking at my baby, and kind of like I'm still in shock. She's 2 months old, and I'm still like, you still expect me to take care of this thing? Like, you guys fully trust me with this because this is new to me. But your whole world kind of just gets shifted. I don't think I've ever been more scared and happy in the amount of 48 hours. I think I cried more in 48 hours than I did in my whole life. And
I
it was
know.
just
I
it
know
was
the
just a
feeling.
rain, it was just a range of
Yeah.
emotions. And it would, and my mother-in-law was so helpful. She stayed with us the first night, and then the second night in the hospital, she left. And that wasn't really until reality kicked in. Like I was just saying before, there's no more safety net. You're on your
Yeah.
own. You got to figure this
Yeah.
out. And
Yeah.
granted, you're in a hospital. You got help, but like, I'm like, holy shit, my chest is getting tight. I'm like, this is real
It's a
responsibility now.
real
Like,
thing, man. It's a real thing.
you hear people talk about, because everyone talks about having kids and being parents. It's such a like part of life, right? But it's one of those things where it's so common, but it's so powerful and so like life altering, where you don't find too many
Right.
experiences like that, if that makes any sense.
No, I get it.
Yeah,
I definitely get it. I
so
went through it. I've been through it five
oh
times.
my God, God bless. That's amazing.
I've been through it five
Does it
times,
get
and I'm gonna tell you
any
something, man.
easier?
No, no, because every kid, every kid, there's a different connection instantly. Every kid, there's a different connection. There's because leading up to the time of I think of that you find out you're having a kid, you think about all the things that you went through recently as you made the
Yeah,
kid. What was your relationship like at that time and with your spouse or with your significant other, and what was the feeling? How did you feel when you found out? It's always different. And you'll look at this kid because you'll say, hey, this one was more, a more intense birth, maybe. Maybe it was easy. Ray says, I'm about to cry. If you see in the comments, he's in the crack.
I see that.
But you get you it's just so many different nuances that feed into that. By the time that child's born, you look at them just a little bit
No doubt.
different each
No,
time.
that's
So
real.
I hope you have 20 of them. You
Oh my
know, you
God.
you need like 10
Let me
girls
just
and
get
10
let me just
boys,
get through the
bro.
first one first. Let me just
Get to the
figure it
first
out.
one.
Let me just
You
figure out how
might
to do
decide you don't want to have no more after that.
it.
I know some people that's like, man, no, man, after this first one, no, man, I'm not doing it.
It's I grew up in all boys. My father's side, I have all male cousins. It's all been guy stuff. All rah rah, like home improvement,
Yeah.
10 Allen type stuff. Like, that type of environment. And until I met my wife, she has two sisters. Her mom is relatively young, so she's like a third sister.
Hmm.
And she has a brother, and so it was a way different life. I had to get used to kind of just knowing about being around girls all the time. Now I have a daughter, and my wife's like, you know what, you have to have a
Yeah.
daughter because like, you can't be so macho man all the time. This baby's gonna break you
Yeah.
down and soft and make you soft. And I'm like, and she already did, obviously,
Yeah.
it's like, and I think it's
Yeah.
inevitable. I think if you deny that you're not soft once you have a daughter, you're a liar because,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
there's some kind of chemical imbalance because once you see a baby girl in your life,
It changes
it's
you,
mind,
man.
it's
It
crazy.
changes you, bro. It changes you. It takes you. It for a man, I think, unless you're crazy, for a man, it takes you to a you experience a whole nother level of love
Yes.
outside of that level that you have with having your first kid. But when it's a girl, man, I know for me it was that way. It was just like, wow,
Yeah.
because I got 4 boys and then a girl.
Oh,
And
wow.
so,
Wow.
so it's having her, it balances out all of the, real talk, the bullshit, like
Yeah, yeah,
all of the
yeah.
macho shit. All I want to do some days, even now. Just the other day, she went to her first homecoming dance, bro, and I was like, man, and yeah, I did cry.
Yeah.
I did cry a little bit when I
Hey, it's
saw her
okay.
with this
It's
dress and
okay.
heels on. I was like, man, shit. Knowing what kind of dude I was when I was her age, I was like, oh man,
Oh
okay,
yeah. Well,
yeah. But it's
it
what it
gets
is.
real when even my father, like I said, I grew up in a very home improvement Tim Allen type of house, like macho man stuff. So now to see my dad, over the years my dad has gotten softer, but now like this has just put him to the next
Oh
level. Like
yeah,
it
grandbaby.
and it's awesome to see. It's kind of like a full circle moment type of thing, and it's she's the first grandbaby for both sides of the family, and we just picked godfather and godmother the other day, and just seeing everyone's reaction and the amount of love that this baby already has, it's like it's crazy.
I congratulate you, man, from me, my family, to you and yours, man.
I appreciate it, man.
Congratulations.
Thank
I
you.
couldn't wait to get you on here and tell you that I know we've been messaging and for a long time and
Yeah.
talking about doing this even before you had her. And you were, I remember when you announced, I think I messaged you and you was like, yeah, man, you was hyped up. You was ready for it. And I was like, he's going to be a great dad, man. And it's a blessing when it goes through without a hitch, man. There's no problems with your wife or
Yeah.
with your child, and so it's awesome, man. So, congratulations again, my brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Take it
Yeah,
one day at a time. One day at a
one day at
time.
a time. Yes,
That's
sir.
it. That's
So
it.
you got this new baby now, and you're in the cigar lifestyle. I'm gonna jump around a little bit. I had a few things, but it's and like I said, it's a conversation, man. But
Yeah.
what was it like your first real introduction as a cigar aficionado? Because I would consider you
Mm.
and your partner cigar aficionados. So what was it like coming into I'll say, let me ask you this way. What was it like coming into the culture and trying to figure out where you wanted to fit into the culture?
Sure. I mean, it started just like I think with a lot of people, at least people my age now, it was with social media. I started Brother Cigar, this Instagram account, 2017, I think. So, what
Wow.
is that, 7, 8 years ago?
7, 8
And
years ago, yeah.
and it was really just, and this was before it was just pictures. There was no stories, there was no video, there was nothing like what it is today, obviously. And
Hmm.
I really just made it because I went to my first cigar international or first cigar fest, and that is ran by Cigar International in Pennsylvania. And essentially,
Hmm.
it's a grown adults Halloween. You're
Right.
going around. You got your goodie bag. You give them a ticket. They throw cigars in your bag. And I came back to my house when I lived in Connecticut, and I just had all these cigars. And like I said, I always thought you looked cool when you smoke cigars. So I was like, you know what? Let's make a cigar page. And my
Hmm.
partner Justin at the time already was like that. He already had a Dapper cigar. He was already doing the suits and cigar thing. And I uh, I was like, you know what? Let's make a page. I got nothing else to do. I go to work. I go out to the gym. I eat. I smoke cigars. Like I might as well try and make this a thing.
Right.
And I gained like 1,000 followers in like a month, and I guess I didn't realize, and it doesn't sound like a lot now, but back then that was a lot, and
Hmm.
I guess I didn't realize how big the cigar community was, especially on social media, because I'm like, holy crap, like there's all different variations of people,
Right.
male,
Right.
female, black, white, whatever, and I'm like,
Right.
holy shit, this is a lot of people, and that was kind of really my start into it. And I still don't I consider myself a cigar aficionado. I feel like, I'm always learning things about cigars. It's like everything, it's just like everything else. I learn something new every day about it, but not really till I felt like, you know what, like I know my stuff about cigars. It wasn't really till like I started my own cigar, our first cigar, which was the Blueprint, which was 2.5 years ago.
Hmm.
You smoke all these cigars and you read all the stuff about it, sizes, flavor profiles, the history behind it. So you kind of like, I never thought when I first started getting into cigars, I was so overwhelmed. I'm like, what's a Cuban? What's not a Cuban? What's this Olava? And what's this Drew Estate? And what's this My Fa? Like, I don't know the names of these cigars. There's so many names. And then within a year, you just get so involved with it, through
Right.
social media and talking to people and sharing each other's experiences. I walk into a cigar lounge now, and it's like every single one of them, and so and just getting, I didn't really I always appreciated the cigar culture, but not in my own cigar events with my own cigars, and because I would go to cigar events and you interact with the people
Right.
and you talk to whoever's hosting it, but until it's your own, in my opinion, you don't really get that, I guess, that other side for it, because the people are here for you, and you
Right.
appreciate that even more, and the culture even more, because you're the reason why these people are here and enjoying your cigar, your product, your environment that you created. And it's it's always humbling when we have events and we have people come and they just enjoy our cigars, because it takes blood, sweat, and tears. We didn't just say, hey, let's just make a cigar and just let's just pop our name on it. Like, we very, no pun intended, diligent about what we wanted to do, and just really make a good product.
Right. Right. So when so let me ask you something. Before you um, crafted your cigars, before you came out with cigars, were you already on the burn down?
Yeah, so we started the Burndown podcast, like I always try to say with everybody, disclaimer. We started 5.5 years ago, before everyone and their
Okay.
mother has a podcast. Right now, it's everyone's got a podcast. Someone blows up on TikTok, they got a podcast.
Got a
The sport
podcast. Yep.
retired athlete got a podcast. This reality star got a podcast. So just we started a few different ventures, right? So Justin
Hmm.
and I, a little bit of history about Justin and I, we met through my father. My father is an electrical engineer. Justin is an electrical engineer by trade, and my dad went to RIT, Rochester Institution of Technology, in upstate New York.
Hmm.
And Justin, that's where he went. He played D3 basketball. I think it's D3 or D2 basketball up
Oh
there.
wow.
And he's a basketball player.
He's a
And
baller, huh?
yeah, we call him. He's 6'4" and he's German, so we call him the German Missile. And he's a big boy. So the German Missile and I became friends through my father. My father, he would always throw barbecues, hangouts. We'd go to baseball games and same thing, drink beer, smoke cigars. And Justin and I just really started to gravitate towards each other, and we would just stay friends and just do whatever. And then not until, like I said, we started these Instagrams, and we had these followings, and it wasn't anything crazy. But I was like, hey man, we got something here. Like, we have a couple thousand followers each. Like, maybe we should try and do something,
Right.
because maybe we can turn this into something. So first we started with we tried doing like a cigar subscription service. So
Hmm.
we were making up all these different tiers, different packages, but not like Texas and New York. There's a lot of red tape when it comes to
Right.
cigars.
Right.
So
Right.
we put a lot. We always Excel spreadsheets. We did all this background work, and we were like, you know what? We're not going to get any capital to start this up. Like, it just doesn't make sense to live in New York and start this up. So we scrapped that idea. And then we wanted to try and compete with Cigar Aficionado magazine. We said,
Hmm.
you get Cigar Aficionado. I might have a magazine in my room here, but it's like this thick, and half of
Right.
it's all like advertisements,
Right.
right? So
Right.
we said, hey, we take all these pictures, we do all these descriptions and captions and uh, all stuff about cigars. Let's try and make a magazine. So we started looking into that, and then we started being like, where are we gonna sell the magazines, or where are we gonna put the magazines, and how do you make money from magazines? Oh wait, advertisements. All right, so this is the 21st century. No one's gonna read magazines anymore. So scrap
Exactly.
scrap that idea. And then we kind of took a little bit of a hiatus, and I really started getting getting involved with podcasts because my two younger brothers would be, so we all lived home. My brothers would just sit home all day and watch podcasts. Joe Rogan, Joey Diaz, Tom Segura,
Mm-hmm.
all these comedians,
Mm-hmm.
Bert Kreischer. And I'm like, what is this? Like, what are you guys watching? They're like, oh, it's a podcast. I'm like, what the hell is a podcast? And he's like, yeah, it's a platform, it's a form of media where you can just talk about whatever you want.
Right.
There's kind of just free reign. And I was like, that's interesting. So I went to Justin because I knew he had some video editing experience, and I said, hey man, you ever hear of a podcast? And he's like, no. I'm like, it's basically what we do in a cigar lounge. He's like, we can just talk about whatever we want and just record it and put it on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, really? So we started looking into it, and he's like, you know what? Let's do it. I'm in. I'm totally into it. So we turned his pool house into a podcast studio. So if you ever watch the very first episode, you just see two lounge chairs, concrete floors, a little table, unpainted walls, and two kids that have no personality because they're so uncomfortable in front of a camera. But you got to start somewhere, right?
Yep. Yep.
And now if you look at all the 250, 260 something episodes later, it's a completely different ball game. But yeah, that's how things really started with the podcast. And doing the podcast, that's how we met Jonas from Blackbird. And
Mm-hmm.
we met Jonas out in Long Island when he started his company Blackbird Cigars around the same time we started the podcast. So he knew us from taking pictures and videos of cigars and stuff, and he just happened to be coming to our favorite lounge I would go to on Long Island. He said, "Hey, I would like to meet you guys. I'm going to be doing my little tri-state area tour for my cigars. I would like to meet with you." So we said, "Sure." We met him, gave us some cigars, we did some pictures for him, and then from there he was like our second guest on the podcast, and we just formulated a relationship. And then one day he just came to us and said, "Hey, I want to make you a cigar." And we were like, what does that mean? Like, what is it? Like, what do you mean you want to make us a cigar? What do we have to do? He said, listen, I like what you guys represent. I like the way you guys bring this new environment to an antiquated industry. And I think you guys will be successful, and I would love to help you get your foot in the door. I will take care of everything up front. I will take care of the manufacturing, sourcing the tobacco. All you have to do is just come up with the label and the name, and just have to obviously market it. We said, all right, that sounds like a good plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so we worked something out where it made sense for the both of us. Obviously, at that time, he would be collecting more of a percentage due to all the risk that he was facing. So we had the first year; it was very successful, and then the second year, he was building his. So we did the podcast for 5.5 years, and we just started our cigar line, the Blueprint, and now the Diligent about 2 years ago. And the second year into it, he said, "Hey, listen, I am building my new warehouse in the Dominican Republic. The construction is eating into my budget, and I can't support your cigar line anymore. What's your plan?" He said, "What's your plan B?" And just like that. And luckily, through the podcast, we worked out some content creation deals and advertising deals with other companies. And we said, we should just hold on to this money because maybe something will come out of it. So
Right.
luckily, we had enough money, and we put all that money into our cigar, just starting up again with the Blueprint. And since then it's been great. So we had the 2 years with the Blueprint, and then last year we started working on the Diligent, and that was just released about 2 months ago, I believe,
Right.
or in
Right.
September.
Yep.
Yeah, 1 or 2 months ago, and it's been a great journey. It's been I would never think I would have my own cigars.
Mm-hmm.
When I was that kid back in Connecticut, smoking on the porch, listening to Nas, smoking, a Drew Estate or a Gurkha. But life is funny like that, and you got to take the punches and roll with them sometimes. So here I am today.
Well, check this out. So, you guys, that part of your journey right there is pretty intricate. It's pretty deep. When you look back on this stuff, like you said, everybody's doing a podcast. Everybody's doing things now. And so there's a lot of guys, even like me, that's that's on a smaller echelon. You know, I'm not way out there with 50,000 followers just yet.
You'll
But
get there, brother.
when
You'll get there.
you know what, God willing,
I
I'm
know it.
there. You know,
I
I'm
know it.
having a good time, man. I'm just having a good time.
That's
You know,
at the
talking
end
to
of the
people.
day, though. That's what all
Yeah,
matters, though. It's not a
yeah,
job.
you know,
It's
I
not.
just want to have a good time talking to people, man, and hear about what they do. And I pick guests that I'm curious about how they got to where they are. I don't pick them
Yeah,
because maybe it could grow my show or this. It's just somebody I want to talk to, and hopefully whatever they say resonates with people, and it's something that we could all learn from. So I'll ask you this.
yeah.
Tell me two things that you would suggest to someone new coming into this whole
hmm
podcasting phenomenon to grow their pages, to grow their platform. What are two things that they
Uh,
could do?
um, I would definitely say the first thing off the top of my head is just consistency. People like consistency because it's something they can rely on. So if you're doing a live or if you're doing a podcast and you want to do it weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, whatever, I would always recommend to pick a day, pick a time, and stick to that time in that day so people can expect to know to do that. And that was a piece of advice my brothers gave me. I said, just like you, I asked the same question. I said, hey, I'm starting a
Mhm.
podcast. What do you recommend I should do? He said, pick a day and stick to that day. That way people know every single week or whatever, every month, they know what to expect. And since then, we released an episode every Friday for the last 5.5 years. I think we might have missed 1 or 2 weeks when we first started, but relatively every single Friday a new episode has been out.
Mhm.
Um, so I would say be definitely consistent on what you're doing. And I think the also thing is just being authentic. Like, like yourself, like being on the show with you, I could tell you're a very authentic person. You just want to sit back, smoke a cigar, and just hear what this person has to say
Yeah.
and kind of just give your 2 cents. And I think people can sense authenticity and people can sense BS, right?
Right.
When you're trying to put on a show, when you're trying to, like you see all these TikTokers and people doing pranks and these crazy outlandish videos because they just want views. But you know what? That's not really who they are, and that's not really their authentic selves. They just want to get the views so they can get paid. But at the end of the day, when you meet them on the street, they're just like a regular person.
Right.
At
Right.
least for me, I could see right through that. Like, I don't get it. I don't get drawn in by that. I just see you're just trying to get the shock value, and you just want to, get some views. So
Right.
I would just say be consistent and be authentic in whatever you're doing, saying, because people will pick up on authenticity and they just want to be able to relate to that because people, I would say most people are real. Most people are authentic. They don't like to be fake or want to be fake. So people will pick up on that and can relate to that for sure.
What was your when you look back over 5 years doing the Burndown podcast, what would you say was your best moment?
Oof.
Uh, Because you guys
Man.
have you have a wide variety of guests. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys talk to a lot of people. What would you say would be your best moment in doing it?
Um, you know, we had a lot of interesting guests, like, professional athletes, comedians, actors, singers, mobsters, females in the cigar industry, like you name it, we had them on. And it's, I could tell you this, a great story was when we had Ed Reed on. Obviously,
Oh
Ed
wow,
Reed,
I agree.
Hall of Fame safety for the Baltimore Ravens. He followed me years ago on Instagram, and this is when we were relatively new to the podcast. So
Hmm.
I didn't want to fanboy out and like shoot my shot, be like, hey, be on my podcast, and I talked to him a little bit on Instagram saying, hey, how'd you follow me? How'd you find me? This and that. He says, oh, I'm into cigars. I found you on the Explore page. I thought you had a cool profile. I was like, all right, that's
Hmm.
great. So over a course of a year, we built up our guests. We had John Starks from the Knicks. We
Hmm.
had Ruben Studdard from American Idol. So we had, some
Yeah,
recognizable names, right?
yeah.
So I was like, all right, Justin, I think this is our time to shoot our shot with Ed Reed. So we DM'd him, and he was out. I think he said something like, "Yeah, we can make that happen." Some like an easy response. So the day that we were interviewing him, I'm at work, and it happened to be on Long Island. It was in February, and it happened to be like the worst blizzard in like the last decade on Long Island. And My wife knew how important this interview was to me because I'm like, this is like the best Hall of Fame safety in the NFL. Like the GOAT Tom Brady was afraid of playing him. Like this guy
Right, right.
needs to be on the podcast. Like this is who we need
Hmm.
to speak to. So my wife's like, listen, I know this is important to you. Even if you have to sleep at his house because you're snowed in there, just stay there. I was like, all right, bet. I'm doing it. So at my job, they're like, all right, we have to like, you guys should probably go home. It's getting crazy out there. Like, just leave her. I'm like, I'm not going home. I'm going to Justin's house. And Justin lived like 40 minutes from where I worked. So it took me like an hour and a half. I'm driving through the snow, and I
Hmm.
get there, and we make the podcast happen. And I'm sure as you experience when you do lives, when you do podcasts, there can be a lot of technical difficulties. Like the
Right.
video can be shot, the audio can be shot. You can lose this. So we were very diligent on getting everything set up and ready. And and he was one of the coolest guests to ever have on. Such a laid back guy, interesting. I think we interviewed him in his mother's garage in Louisiana. He was just
Oh,
smoking a Placencia, just
oh
hanging out
wow.
with us, just like chilling with us. And he told us he was fans of us. And I was like, dude, I'm a fan of you since I've been a kid. What do you mean you're a fan of me? Like, that's like, like mind blowing to me.
Mhm.
So, and I remember he said, all right, I'll talk to you guys later, this and that. And we hung up. I remember wanting to like run through a wall. Like you told me when I was like, I just had a kid. I was like, holy motherfucking, we just had every, it was a fucking bastard. I was ready to like punch holes in the wall, go crazy. And it was at that moment I was like, this is something that we created out of nothing. And we just had someone who's extremely famous and well known in the NFL just from having just from smoking cigars. And that's where
Mhm.
we kind of developed the phrase, we bring people together over a cigar, because we always say no matter your race, your creed, your
Right.
age, your occupation, we have some of the best conversations in the cigar lounge. I could be a hedge fund manager and you could be a janitor at a school. Doesn't matter. We're there for one reason.
Yeah.
We can have a great conversation. And that's where we kind of started trying to open up our repertoire of all different guests who enjoy cigars. You have to enjoy a cigar. Unless you're extremely famous and you're extremely well known, we'll make it like a pass. Like if like Leonardo DiCaprio wanted to come on, all right, yeah, sure, he
Yeah,
can come on.
he
But
coming.
yeah,
He
yeah,
coming.
yeah.
If
But
you want to talk about basket weaver, we gonna be
yeah, come on.
the
Like
best basket weaving show we ever had.
that's it. That's it. And that's where we kind of just developed the whole mantra of, we just like bringing people together over a cigar, and we kind of took it upon ourselves to kind of show the world that cigars aren't these terrible, disgusting things. These bad, they don't cause this. They're not this with the big stigma that's around it. Look at all the different people that we've had on: females, males, veterans,
Right.
professional athletes, former mobsters, whatever, all because we like the cigar. And that I think that speaks volumes for why they're on and how we got together. Because it's
That's interesting, man. It's interesting that you say that. I recently had a conversation about the difference between cigar culture and cigar community. So I'm gonna ask you, what's your thoughts on that? What do you see as the difference between cigar culture, cigar community? What does that mean to you?
the difference between cigar culture and cigar community. I feel like the cigar community in itself is everyone who enjoys a cigar, no matter what no matter who you are, what you do. That is the
Hmm.
community you're in. And then, just like
Right.
everything else, wherever you are in the country, wherever you live, wherever you smoke cigars, there's different cultures in between the cigar community. Whether you're in New York, whether you're in Texas, whether you're in Atlanta, those are the cultures that ultimately combine all the different cultures to make the community as a whole, if that makes sense.
Hmm. That makes
Um,
sense.
because I look at it as the community as the overall body, and then without over everything else in between has to be just like America, just like the state you live in. It's the community of the state of the United States, but then you have each state that makes it different, unique,
Right.
and what it makes the overall United States quote unquote community, right?
Hmm.
Um, so, and it's fun when you get to experience different cigar cultures when you're traveling. Like when When I would go to you go to Florida, it's very different than in New York. When you go to Texas, when you go
Oh
to
yeah.
Georgia, there's all these different. But you know what the difference is? Doesn't matter if you're in a cigar culture in New York. When you go into a cigar culture in Atlanta or Texas, you're already part of the community, so you're already essentially accepted into why you're
Right.
here. And
Right.
that's
That's real talk.
and that's what it goes back to. It doesn't matter your race, creed, age, occupation. You like a cigar, you like to have a good time. 99% of the people who smoke cigars are usually good people. So most of the
Yeah.
time you will be
You're gonna
accepted.
be
You always got one
in good
little letter.
company.
That's it.
Yeah, you're gonna be in good
And,
company, you know. I had somebody say this to me the other night. This was last week. We were talking about this, right? And Zadwina Brown, she's a alum of the WNBA,
okay.
went to UT. She owns a lounge on the south side of Dallas. Very good lounge, blowing smoke cigar lounge. So if you're ever in Dallas, hit me up and that's where we go. But I asked her this question and she said something, she said, Chevalier, when I think about the cigar culture versus community, I always lean toward community. And I really break down what community really means, for me. And she said, it's common unity. We
Mm.
have this common unity
Yeah,
based
there you
on
go.
the leaf, right?
That's
And it
strong
was
right
really
there.
interesting, man. It was deep when she said it because I didn't know where she was going when she said it. And she said, we have this common unity that we can share throughout not just the cigar cultures, but culture as a whole.
Hmm.
It's that she said it's like the leaf is that great common denominator, for us all, for all of us that enjoy it. And it helps us bridge gaps within the different cultures to
Yeah.
form the community, which is the cigar community. And I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, I took that to heart, man. When I got up to write my thoughts of the classic man the next day, that was because I write those in the morning. I
Yeah.
post them every day. And but I don't write those till in the morning. Like I'm not doing the pictures and all the music and stuff every day, maybe 2 weeks ahead and just
Yeah.
post them. I write those every morning. And that next morning, man, last Wednesday I got up and that's what all was on my mind because I feel like, and you tell me if you agree, I feel like sometimes within the community, the cultures are getting fragmented in a sense. And sometimes I feel like we're losing sight of what this is all
Yeah.
about. We've in a sense become so competitive in so many ways instead of working together
Mm.
to enhance the overall community that is cigars. We get caught up in these little battles, almost like people with politics in regular society. We get
Yeah.
caught in these battles and we forget that it's all about all of us anyway. Whatever happens is going to affect us all. And so,
Yeah.
I'm always looking to create a message. I always call it Chevalier unity, but I'm always trying uh, to speak in a certain way that everybody within our community, the cigar community, feels welcome, feels loved, feels appreciated, and feels free enough to speak their piece and ask their questions that they might want to ask because we all doing this,
Most definitely. Most
you
definitely.
know.
I mean, the other day I was walking around. I was walking with my wife and my newborn. We were just strolling around, and there was a old timer smoking a cigar. And
Hmm.
he said, "How you guys doing?" I said, "How's that cigar?" And he said, "Man, this is the best time of my day. I look forward to this every single day." And I was like, "Man, I wish I could join you." He said, "Hey, well, if you want to get away one day from the wife and kid, you know where to find me." And I had no idea who this guy was, but he just invited me on his porch, and I was like, you know what? There's not many industries. You can't go to the gym. You can't go to the gym, or you can't go like to any other industries and just be like, hey, nice workout, and they'll be like, oh yeah, yeah, thanks, bro. You want to come work out? And it's like there's always like a little
It's
competitive edge.
always gonna
Like
be a little
why?
side eye.
Yeah,
We'll
like why are
put
you
that in the
talking to me?
boundary box. That don't look right. That don't
Yes, the
look right.
boundary box. You put that in there, and uh, it's Justin and I always say on the podcast because we've interviewed LFD cigars, Nova cigars, Gran Habano, all these different cigar makers, and people are like, well, you guys have your own brands, so why would you bring on other brands? And I said, because it doesn't really matter that two different brands. We're not really we are competitors, quote unquote, but at least in my experience, the cigar industry is a very, very welcoming, very, very open community where we just want to see everybody win. So we want to have these cigar companies on and promote their cigars because, at the end of the day, it's all about community and
Yeah,
getting everybody together. And there's no
yeah,
other industry like that. You don't see McDonald's having a podcast and inviting Burger King, or you don't see Crunch Gym inviting 24 Hour Fitness to
right,
come on and be like, hey, let's
right.
let's grow together. And it's all about just like at least for me, I have a sales background, so it's all about forming relationships, and 'cause you never know who you're going to need one day or rely on.
That's
So you
true.
always want to build as many bridges as you want. Just because we're in the same industry and we sell the same product doesn't mean I want to see you lose, or I want to always do better than you. In the back of my head, I want to do better because I want to make money. But if you're making more money than me, that's okay. That's a good
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Tell me how you do it.
Yeah,
That's my thing. Tell me how you do it. What
exactly,
wisdom can you impart upon me to help me to be a better version of who I'm trying to be. And
exactly.
that's why I asked you the question earlier, what kind of advice you would give someone? Because a lot of people, I always say, the only stupid question is the one you don't ask. The
I
only
agree.
stupid question is the one you don't ask. And with conversations with Chevalier, man, like I said, it's always just been about, man, getting to know people, man. Just I just want to get to know everybody that I look at in this culture in our community, and I just want to have a conversation with them to see, hey, what was it like for you as you were growing up? Like you grew up with cigars. Your dad, you know, you recognize the smells when you come in the house. It's those
Yeah,
are- those certain scents are reminiscent of times when you were a kid and your mom and dad was grooving to the Four Tops,
yeah,
like you said. You know what I'm saying? So it's
that's
it's
it.
it's it's like that, man. I'm trying to create moments that become memories.
That's it. That's it, brother. I
Create
like
moments that
that.
become memories, man. And shit, that just hit my brain, man. I got
You gotta, you
note to
gotta, you
self.
gotta.
I gotta keep
Yeah,
that one. Create moments that make memories, man. And that's what I wanted to do with you today. So let me ask you something else, man.
yeah.
You know, when you look back over the last 5 years of being on the Burndown podcast, what kind of things that are there things that you look back on that you wish you guys hadn't done? That
How
you may
did
have done differently. Yeah. So what would let me ask it another way. What would you say would be one thing that you would do differently,
mm,
knowing what
mm.
you know now about your experiences doing the podcast? 'Cause you guys
What's something that we
do a
would
lot,
do?
bro. Yeah. What
Yeah.
what would you do different?
Um.
If there's
I
anything.
Yeah. I mean, because we started. We did it. We do it all. I mean, we
Hmm.
just started. 5.5 years. We just started offloading the editing. We always edited the podcasts and
Hmm.
everything ourselves. We finally decided to alleviate some of our time to do that. Um, so we really did everything. But if there's something that I could do different, that I learned from, it would be regarding podcasts, having
Hmm.
backups upon backups, backup cameras, backup audio, because we've had a few guests and the computers are froze, the audio got disconnected, the memory card on the camera stopped, and we had them for an hour and a half, and they drove from Brooklyn, they drove from Pennsylvania to be with us.
Hmm.
And then to tell them that, hey, we had a great conversation, but we have to have you on
We
again
lost it.
because we
Wow.
lost it. It's like there's like no worse feeling because you feel like a dog with their tail between your legs because it's like you trusted us to be this professional studio, professional podcast. You
Hmm.
spent more than and we're depending on where they come from, they spent hours of their day life to come be with us, and now it was all wasted. And there was a moment where we never had a backup audio section, and Justin's usually the AV guy, and I'm like, how do we never have a backup audio? How do we? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, we've been doing this for 5 years, and now we're finally getting a backup audio system. So that would be something because there is no worse feeling than telling the person that you just spent hours and hours with to tell them that, yeah, can you come back because we lost our podcast or we lost a file. Like it's kind of like a
Yeah.
shot to your ego almost. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
something I would definitely do different is just making sure. and this is a piece of advice for people who are looking to do this type of stuff. You just never ever want to have one source of audio or video. You want to make sure you have a backup
Hmm.
up on a backup,
Okay.
because it saves a lot of time and
Duly noted, man.
embarrassment.
Duly noted. Where do you see yourself, in the next 2 years, man, with the Burn Down podcast and the cigars and
Yeah,
fatherhood? When you look at all of that and you lump it all in together, where do you see yourself in a couple of years? Do you see yourself still doing the podcast, or do you see yourself growing and maybe because I'm sure you guys got more cigars coming, but like, do you see yourself moving into a different direction, or have you found the lane that you like to be in, and this is how you want to coast on through life?
I think we're still trying to find our lane. The podcast is really at this point now more of a marketing tool
Hmm.
and a way of, you know, uh, just continuing to get our name out there, because without the
Hmm.
podcast, we wouldn't have the success of the cigars without it, because we already had a brand established. So we're still trying to figure out, are we going to be a podcast and a cigar company, or just a cigar company? And we're kind of trying to, because I live without traffic, about an hour away from Justin now. I used to live on Long Island, and I was
Hmm.
about a 30 minutes away. But then 4 years ago, I moved away to right outside, like the Bronx, right over the bridges up here. And
Hmm.
so it's a little bit of travel. Now I have a child in the mix, so I can't just be willy-nilly about my
Right.
time. Like
Right.
tomorrow we're doing a big cigar event up by me. It's going to be all night, and we usually shoot on Wednesdays. So before I had a baby, I'd be like, yeah, I'll do my event all night till 12 o'clock.
Hmm.
Wake up, go to work. After on Wednesday, go to Long Island, go to work, and then do the podcast and come back at 9 o'clock at night. Now I have to be like, yo, bro, uh, we gotta do the event first, because that's what matters most, and then
Right.
next week we'll meet for the podcast. Um, so we're trying to, like you said, we're trying to figure out what lane we want to stay in. We're in a couple different lanes, and we're just trying to navigate it, and we're just trying to take it step by step. So in a couple years, I would like to, in 2 years, I think you asked, definitely have our third cigar line. So a little bit about our cigars,
Let's go
and
there.
how all the names intertwine with each other, right?
Yes.
So uh, we started the Burn Down podcast. I went to school for marketing, so I was big on how things are sold to people, how people view things, how products are put out in the place of the world, and how they're viewed. And I like the little catchy things that to catch people's eyes. So when we were coming up with the name of the podcast, the Burn Down podcast didn't just come to us. We thought long and hard. So I said, hey, man, I'm Brother Cigar on Instagram. You're Dapper Cigar, and we're going to be a podcast. So what are two words that start with B and D that we can use for a podcast? So we thought, Burn Down Podcast. When you're smoking a cigar, you're burning it down.
Burning
So
it
we said,
down.
perfect. So that's the perfect name for it. So when we came to do the cigars, we said, how do we want to name the cigars? So the first name that we thought of was called the Azamato, which means dapper in Italian. And we're like, this is the name. I'm smoking the Azamato. This is the dopest name ever. I love this name. But then when you look at the spelling, it's Azzamato. And I told Justin, yeah, scrap it. Not doing it. He's like, what? What
Because
do you
everybody's
mean?
gonna be Azamato. Ass. That's all they gonna see is ass.
It looks like ass. The
It
word
looks like
looks.
ass.
And I said, how do you know? I said, you know why? Because I came across an Azz Electric, AZZ Electric in the Bronx. And I said, that is ass electric. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's ass electric. So he said, all right, we'll scrap it. So I said, why don't we use the same format as the podcast? Burn Down Podcast, Brother Cigar, Dapper Cigar. So what's a name with a B that we could use? Blueprint. That took a long time to come across, but we figured it out. And we thought of the
Mhm.
blueprint because this was our first cigar. So we were saying, this is the blueprint of your life, of how you want to be successful in your business and family and whatever you want. You have a blueprint, everything that you want to do. And this was the blueprint, meaning starting a podcast, of getting our own cigar. So we call it the blueprint. And then the next name is a D, because eventually we wanted to have a sampler pack with 3 cigars and it said BDP on it, made
Hmm.
by the Burndown Podcast. So we don't know what the P will be, but we have the Burndown, we have the Diligent, and Diligent also expands on the idea of your mental blueprint, just being symbolized by our first cigar, and it really just kind of means on the road to achieving whatever it is that you hold to your minds. It's only the diligent
Right.
ones in this world that get to make things happen. You just can't
Hmm.
sit on the couch and expect to make things happen. Like I said, to start a podcast, you have to be diligent. You have to be disciplined and consistent on putting the work in to get where you want to be. So that is kind of the intertwining story between the Burndown Podcast, Brother Cigar, Dapper Cigar, and the Blueprint and the Diligent.
Wow, man. I'm sitting here like as you're saying that, I'm like, what would be the perfect P name? Like you probably gonna get some messages from me over the next couple of days, because
Hey, I'll
it
take
just
suggestions.
when you think about y'all's journey, and remember I told you I said I wanted to talk to you by yourself, and after talking to you, I'm sitting here going, I should have brought them both on at the same time, but I'm gonna get him on too
You
because
know what?
I
I'm kind of
definitely
glad
want
you
to
brought me
talk to him
on,
too.
because Justin,
Uh-huh.
I always bust his chops, bust his chops on the podcast, because he tends to, jibber jabber too much. He could talk to a wall, he could talk to a fly, he could
Justin,
create
hey, he
conversation.
talks, man. He
That,
talks.
that
He
boy
talks.
can
I've watched
talk,
him. Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's
I
funny
like that.
because like I said, my father hired him, so for a lot, they did a lot of travel. So my dad would be like, listen, there'd be like a guy I didn't want to talk to, and I would just let Justin talk to him for an hour, and he'd be like on his way. I'd get out, and it's good and it's bad. Like on the podcast we'll be talking. If it's just me and him, I'll be like, bro, you just cut me off. Like what? Like I don't. You have this. Like hold on to your thought right now. And sometimes like when we have guests, I'll give him a look, like bro, let him talk a little bit. But it's obviously all love over there, but it's
Right,
just like
right.
it's like an inside joke that we have, because I'll be like, all right, Justin, I'll bring out the fishing pole, and I'll be like, all right, bro, I got to reel you back in, because you're going off. But it's great, because sometimes I don't feel like talking, and you know what? There's Justin to take care of that part.
Yeah,
So
that's all right,
it's a
my
good
brother.
collaboration.
Yeah, you guys feed off each other. When one is weak, the other is strong, and vice versa. How
Yeah,
we always said, the iron just sharpens the iron. Iron
that's
sharpening
it.
iron, and that's a manhood thing, man. And I didn't want to keep you really a long time. I ain't rushing you off because I got a lot I want to talk to you about. But I know you got to get back to being dad. But
Yeah,
let me ask
we got a
you
couple
this,
more. We
man.
got a couple more minutes. Yeah.
When you when you think about your journey solely and your journey collectively with Justin, what do you see has been the biggest benefit for you personally? When you what do you feel that the partnership that you guys have formed over the years? Because when you look at it, like based on what you've been saying, this was something that was almost like ordained to happen.
Mm,
Like he went to he worked with your dad. His history and your history parallel and intersected.
yeah.
At a certain point in your lives. So when you look back on it and you look at your own you do your own self assessment in a sense. What do you feel has been the biggest takeaway for you, the biggest advantage of what you're doing in your life today?
You're talking about like between the partnership between Justin and I?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and
that's a
and,
good
and how
question.
it's benefited you and as it relates to the cigar community. But a lot of times in business, man, you take away so many things that
Mm,
you can apply to yourself personally. Like you talk about being diligent, and when you're diligent, it becomes a habit. How you think is how you move. So
hmm
when you look back at it, when you answer that question, think of it from like the things that you've learned and you've taken away from your partnership to help you grow as an individual.
Well, a thing I learned from Justin, just being in business and a partner with him, is that he's always been extremely malleable, adaptive, and we don't always see eye to eye on things, and we never will say our opinions. I like this. I think this is better, and we always come to a compromise, no matter what.
Hmm.
And there's never been a heated conversation between disagreements. We always find a common ground. If there was something that I needed from him that required him to do something more, he would step up and do it, and vice versa. And
Hmm.
he is like a brother to me. We always say we're a brother from another mother because
Hmm.
he acts as, if I needed to call him right now and be like, yo, bro, I'm in the hospital. I need you to travel up an hour and come take care of Marissa. Or he'd be up there if my brothers
Hmm.
weren't around. And I feel like that's how you should view a lot of relationships, whether it's personal or in business, just to be open minded and always willing to listen, at least listen. And when
Hmm.
you listen and take the other person's opinion and thoughts, you know, you may not agree, but you may be able to see more even ground with them. Because I feel like a lot, at least today, there's a lot going on where everything's one-sided, and people don't want to hear
That's
others
true.
opinions,
That's
and
true.
it's like, I like this way, but I don't like it this way because, well, that way sucks because, I like it this way and that's the way it is and this is the way I do it and I don't care anything else. It's like, but I have a good idea or I have another opinion about it that might open up, might be easier for you, or it might be, more advantageous for you to do it this way. So that's, I learned a lot from him, is just always be willing to listen and being adaptive and just being okay with not always being on the same page. Because
Yeah.
I was never I'm never a confrontational person. Sometimes I approach conversations where it might be confrontational and I hesitate a little bit. And
Hmm.
having those kind of conversations at times with Justin, it always made it easier, and
Hmm.
it always opened my eyes. Like, you know what, you don't always have to. If the conversation is gonna maybe get confrontational or hard to start, because it's based on feelings, it's based on finances, it's based on something that's hard to talk about. Just start the conversation and then let it go from there. Don't
Right.
be you gotta start it. Don't be afraid to just open up first and let it go. If it doesn't go the way you went, at least know you tried and it didn't go the way, as opposed to sitting in bed saying, "Man, I wish I would have talked about that. I wish I brought that up." So that's a big thing that I learned from my partnership with Justin, being in my personal life, just on myself, and then just being in business and being a business owner with him.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty good. And that's exactly why you guys and yourself, both personally and collectively are so successful, man. This is one of the reasons why I admire you guys. And I've really I had a whole bunch of questions over here, man, and usually I'm a lot more organized, but when you're having a conversation, it just goes where it goes,
Hey, bro, that's
and
the way it
I
goes.
yeah,
Like,
it just
I
goes where it goes, man. I find myself
sometimes you just
sitting
need
back at,
questions just to have a structure,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah. I never ever follow the damn questions. I just,
but that's the
and we're
beauty of
having
it.
a conversation. Yeah.
That is the
When
beauty of
you
it.
when you're looking at social media, you sitting back and you're not, you know, uh, doing your own thing, and you're looking at social media. What are you looking for? What what makes you pay attention? What do you see in some of the things? I know you're active on my page, probably because I tag you all the time, but what do you see uh what do you see that draws you in, with some of the other cigar podcasts and shows and the posts that you see? What kind of things draw you in outside of music? Because
Yeah,
I know music. Dude, if I'm doing White Folks Wednesday, I know you gonna always be the one that's in my inbox going, "That was a good one,
hell
bro."
yeah,
What
hell
what
yeah.
what what are the things that you see that you like to see, and those things that draw you in, and you say, "Hey, if this person keeps doing that, they're gonna be okay."
I like seeing people in, at least in the cigar industry that I follow, um, kind of just branching out into like just like everyday life and
Hmm.
other topics than cigars. Because, like, for instance, what we've been trying to do on the podcast is just talk about different current events, different things that people talk about, but we're just having to happen
Hmm.
a cigar around it. So, I doesn't really entice me to see people talking about, it smells like an orange peel and it tastes like this.
Right.
Because a lot of people do that, unfortunately, and that's just the way it is. Like, like, I always told Justin, like, what gets a lot of views on social media is like these how-to videos, how to cut a cigar, how to smoke a cigar, but everyone does it, and that's just,
Exactly.
I can't do that. Like, we've done them because the demand calls for it, but like, it's not something I'm excited to do. So I just try to see, like, what you do. Like, you put up these motivational quotes, these inspirational quotes. You do stuff with music. That's the stuff that I like to see. I like to see
Hmm.
the entrepreneurial side of people. I like to see the personal side of people, because I'm starting to realize, people don't just follow or listen or like me on social media just for my cigar. They interact with me, engage with me due to who I am as a person. So
Right.
um, sometimes when I just post personal things, it does a lot better than just regular cigar stuff. And I try to interpret that as maybe people just want to see more of a personal side to me. So
Hmm.
that's what I look for in other people in the cigar industry, just different personality traits, what they like, what they don't like, music, sports, being an entrepreneur, being an employee, whatever it is. I just like seeing different aspects of people that are behind these cigar pages that enjoy cigars just like me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's up, man. It's the same thing. That's why I decided to do conversations with Chevalier the way I do it. Because I think, like I said, I mentioned earlier when we first started, it's about the journey, but man, it just gives people a real glimpse into like who we are and what we really want and what we're trying to achieve. And I think it's important for people sometimes to hear that it's not all about the likes. It's not all about gaining a following.
Hmm.
It's just about, you know, being authentic, being genuine, connecting, man. Connection is the thing that I keep saying all the time is what sustains our community more than
Yeah,
anything, man. It's a one time I always reference this interview. I had Carlito on one time, Carlito Fuente, and he always says it's all about the people. He said
absolutely.
if you get confused and you don't know why you're doing something, if you just go back and focus on the people, you can never go wrong. And that's what I
That's
see
very
you
true.
guys doing. I've seen when you guys are talking about sports. I've seen when you're talking about, lightly on the politics thing, and you guys are, you seem to be careful about how you hit certain things, and then other times y'all just drop the damn frying pan and just get everything at one time, and I'm like, oh hell yeah, that's what I like. I love that about the Burndown podcast. And what resonates for me particularly is that you guys allow each other to be your individual selves. And it's
Most
obvious in
definitely.
the way you said you guys communicate about everything that you do. So it's like the other knows where the other is going
Sure.
already. You can finish each other's sentences. And I think, man, when we talk about the cigar community and we realize that if we wanted to grow, we have to appeal to the people and teach and be willing to learn. I think that's how we sustain our community. Um, Groups like CRA and what the PCA is really about, because it's not all about just selling cigars and,
Hmm.
and, and doing contracts. It's about connecting so we can all come together to make moves to protect the community that we love so much too. And the CRA is doing wonderful things. But let me ask you
Yeah.
this: women in the culture.
Yes,
I
sir.
love to ask men about women in the culture. Recently on the other show that I do with Ray, the lounge, we had a
I, wa-
guy
I mean,
and
I just wanted to touch on one thing you
oh,
said
go
before you asked that.
ahead, go
Excuse
ahead,
me.
yeah, go ahead.
You talked about, it's about the people, right?
Hmm.
Whether it's selling cigars, whether it's a social media page. The only reason why we are, quote, successful with the podcast is because since day one, I started this Instagram page or whatever, I've engaged with every DM, nearly every comment, because I learned that from, there was a guy who I used to watch on YouTube called The Minority Mindset. And then I think it was also Gary
I've heard of him.
Vaynerchuk.
Hmm.
And this is like back when I first started. So it's like 2016. So this is when Instagram and social media was still very uh, relatively new. And one thing that I remember was Gary V was saying that you want to give every single day, you want to deposit $1 to people, and what that means is a cent is replying to a comment, a cent is replying to a DM, a cent is sending a DM. Um, and I've always took that advice of engaging with everybody and just, again, I have a sales background. I like people, hence why we have a podcast and interview people like yourselves. But I take a
Hmm.
general interest on the people that I talk to. I might not know, obviously, them, but I've had some great conversations just talking to people in my DMs, people in different countries. I've gotten some crazy stories about guys. I remember one guy was in Australia and he just had life-changing surgery and he was in like his in his hospital bed for weeks, and he was like, "Listen, from you just responding to my DM, I followed you guys on the podcast, and he's like, I listened to you guys throughout my whole surgery and my recovery period, and it made me feel like I was back at home, not in this hospital bed. So I appreciate you guys doing that for me because I don't know if I'd be able to get through it without that."
Wow.
And I was like, "Damn." I was
That's
like, "Damn,
powerful, bro.
that is." And it's
That's powerful.
people just want to be heard. People just want to be seen. So even if someone sends you a reaction on Instagram or just sends a light DM, whether you engage with it, like it, or just send a reply back, that means stuff to people. You don't have to say this whole
Right.
big response, but just acknowledge people that they're taking an interest on you. Because if you don't, they're just going to find interest with somebody else, and then you
Right.
lost someone that you could potentially, create a relationship with. And I think that's huge because it's all about the people. So I just wanted to touch on that because that's an
I'm
important
glad you
piece.
did. I'm glad you did, man. I've I try to do that same thing. It's hard sometimes
Oh
to
yeah,
do it, but we
yeah.
put that time in there, and I try to, either like, love, or comment back on every love and like that I get.
And it doesn't have to
I
be
think
this
it's kind of
same day. I mean,
right,
even if
right.
you get back to it,
Just at
I've
some
gone back
point,
to people months later and I'm
Mhm,
like, "Hey, bro, I'm
mhm,
sorry. I just saw this. Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a nice day." Like, it doesn't have to be the
mhm.
day of. People are busy. People don't have time to spend on social media all the time. But at some point, if you're on it, just send a little reply and it goes a long
Yeah,
way.
because I mean, people give you their time, and time is important. When people take time,
100%.
like I'm sitting here looking at the people that are watching and going in and out, and I'm sitting here going to myself, man, I don't care if it's 10 people or 60 people watching. I just like that people take the time to say, hey, let's see who Chevalier is talking to today. Hey, what's he talking about? Because one thing we know, he's going to find out how they got to where they are, and why they love it so much. And that's what it's really all about for me, bro. I just, I want to have interesting conversations over cigars, like you guys said. I want to do things that get people to understand why we love this culture so much. Not that we're just all sitting around talking shit loud in the lounge
Yeah.
and blowing smoke like we these big Neanderthals, because we got women in the culture that are making strides. Amazing. You mentioned Nova Cigars.
Yeah.
How do you say that?
I
Lenore.
call it Leo. Leo.
Yeah, Leo. Yeah, you have all these different people. Last week I had remember I told you I had Octavia, her
Yes.
aficionado from on the show, man, and that was, when you see her on her pictures, she's got this fierce, intense thing going, right?
Yeah.
But after talking to her, I realized like she's this really deeply introspective person. She's very introspective, and she has a journey. Like she told me, she says, "Hey, I was a English major," and I was like, "What?" And then I pivoted. She pivoted, and then she became a massage therapist, and then she been smoking cigars for 17 years, long before there was social media. And those are things, little things like that, that people want to know. They want to know that you just had a baby a couple months ago. They want to know that now you're having to learn how to navigate through being a parent, and then still being a businessman, and still doing all these different things. They want to know that you go through that. They want to know that they have commonality
Mm.
with you. They want to know what we got going on, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you today, man. You guys are doing amazing things on the Burn Down podcast, man. You can see the work, the diligence, the dedication. You can see that you guys clearly laid out a blueprint.
Hey, let's go. Let's go.
Y'all clearly laid out a blueprint for the direction that you wanted to go in, and now you're reaping the rewards and the success of that. And I know that we're going to be seeing big things from y'all. Hey, man, I just thank you for being my guest on the show. And I want to ask you to tell me something before we go. Tell me two things that you want us all to know about you. Two things. I usually ask one, but
Ooh,
you give good
two
ass
things.
answers. So two things that you want us to know about you,
Let's see.
going forward.
Two things that you want to know about me. There's a lot of good things I could say. Um, let's, I got voted best person to bring home to your mother in high school. And what's
That just
another
means
good
you
one?
got game. That just means
Ah,
you got crazy game.
That's why I got a beautiful wife, because I don't know how I did, because
Hey,
something
hey,
works.
look, that's that game.
Yeah. And another thing, let's see. What's another thing that I love that people don't know that want to know? Like when you have a million answers and then you can't think of it on the spot. Hmm. I love the state of Hawaii. I'll put it that. I've been there twice. I think Hawaii is one of the best places in the world to be. It's one of the most
Is
beautiful, gorgeous. I would love to smoke a cigar one there one day because I was too young when I went, but for some reason, Hawaii was popping in my head when I was trying to think. I love the state of Hawaii. I don't know if you've ever been there, but I've been to the Big Island in Kona, and I've been to Honolulu, and seeing Pearl Harbor, and going to Kona, the Big Wave, and seeing the actual. It felt more native.
hmm
Um, Quite an experience on both going to both islands. So, got voted best person to bring home to your mom, and I love Hawaii.
Hey, that's enough right there, man. I tell you what, bro. This has been, you know, a conversation I've wanted to have for a long time, and I'd always
Me
said,
too.
if I get an opportunity to talk to this guy, I'm gonna ask him some real simple things because I watch um, you guys put a lot of yourselves into your show. And even in your pictures and the things that you guys do, I can tell that you're very careful about how you brand yourselves and the images that you present. For certain things, no matter how careful you are, there's certain things that you can see. It's just like when you talk to people, like you said earlier, you can tell when people are doing it because they love it. They're doing it because they want to connect. You can see the authenticity, right? I can see the authenticity in you and everything that y'all do and everything that you do. And then me being blessed enough to have you on as a guest and spend some time with me for just a little bit tonight. I get to see even more. I get to understand why I like following you guys and why I like watching what you're doing and why I admire you guys, man. And I just think it's an amazing thing. I hope you keep doing it. Everybody that's watching, hit the drop down there. Follow everybody on here because one way that we keep this stuff going is through support and watching. And make sure that you're following the Burn Down podcast. Go on their link on their pages. His page is Brother Cigar. If you're not following it, follow it. Hey, get you the blueprint and the diligent because there's a story behind those cigars. Make sure you get them, try them out. I'm gonna order me some,
Now, give me
and
get.
and
I appreciate everything that you said, and it's all kind words. I'm
mhm.
humbled to be on here, humbled to be asked, and not every day I get asked to be interviewed, so I'm usually doing the interviewing. So, thank you for having any interest in me and the podcast. And it's been a great experience. I'm finally glad we got to connect face to face, virtually, not just over text. And
Yeah,
hopefully one day when I'm in Texas, I'm not sure where you are, we can meet up for a cigar. And definitely
I'm
give me
in
your
Dallas,
address.
man.
You are
I'm gonna give
okay.
you my address. I'm in Dallas. I live about 20 miles east of Dallas in one of the suburbs, but
All
I
right.
definitely love to get you
I
out
got a
here and show you
good
around.
buddy down there. I got a
Yeah.
good buddy that who I met when I lived in Atlanta. I used to work for AT&T, and
hmm
I am still friends with him to this day, and he lives in Dallas. And still one of my good friends who he's one of those buddies on Instagram that you don't really talk, but you just send DM videos all day to each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys, and it's like you
Yeah.
talk. It's like you talking through the videos that you're sending.
Right.
But
Right.
I really appreciate you having me on here and spending an hour and a half. It's been great getting to know you and appreciate the show. And definitely give me your address because I want to send you some cigars just for having me on.
I can't wait, man. And just so you know, tell your boy Justin, I'm out shopping for suits right now, dude. I'm gonna start putting some suits on to be like you guys, man.
Hey,
I gotta get the look. I gotta get the look. I gotta get that. You know,
if you want a
I,
tailor, we got one. He's out in Hong Kong and he does the right thing.
oh my God, dude, that might be out of my budget. That might be out
Uh,
of my budget.
it
I'm still operating in
it
a budget, bro.
it's I'll say it's I don't listen. I don't got no big budget either. It's price friendly to if you were to pay in the States. Just put it that way.
Oh,
So
okay, okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
send me that info too,
I
man, and I'll send you
got
my
you.
address. Hey, look, this has been Conversations with Chevalier. I got my brother Eric Josefson from the Burn Down podcast. If you guys haven't been watching it, make sure you go follow the Burn Down podcast. Follow him. Follow Cigar Guy, Dapper Cigar. Uh, hey, make sure you follow them, man. Follow me. Follow us all. Let's keep this culture growing. Let's keep doing what we do. This has been Conversations with Chevalier. God bless you guys. And good night, brother. I'll be talking to you soon
All
for
right, my
sure.
man. God bless, and keep doing what you're doing. You're doing good stuff for the community
Thank you,
and
man.
in
I
the culture. All
appreciate you,
right.
my brother.
All right,
Thank
man.
you, my brother. I appreciate you. All right. Good night,
Be
everybody.
well.